We've reached game number 31, but in reality, it's game number 2 because we are looking at the second half almost as a tournament in isolation. Here we are once again on Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partner, My 11th Circle. Lots of conversation, lots of cricket ahead, so let's dive straight in with one new face today. I'll say a quick good evening to Harsha Bhogle, but we also have to welcome back into the fold Simon Doull.
Nice to be back, boys. Nice to be back. It's, as you said, GB, it's sort of, it feels a bit strange, doesn't it, being into the second half, but sort of all these months later. But it was nice to be back out on the field last night and a good contest. The men in yellow, I was pretty impressed with the way they played last night. So Mumbai, just that slow start once again.
Gautam, did you say new guest because Dooley looks different every time we meet him?
I was leaving it to you to give a nice little description of him.
I mean, look at Dooley. He's looking so respectable and classic with stylish glasses. And normally you associate Dooley with stylish shoes, but you can't see them, so he's wearing stylish glasses.
I've got stylish bare feet on at the moment, Harsha. I won't show you.
Would it be disrespectful?
No, I think.
Would it be disrespectful, Harsha, to say first glance, if you were an uninitiated, you might think Mike Hesson's on the show?
Except a Mike Hesson who's been tugged at from both ends and stretched out.
All right, let's look ahead to what we have. It's obviously a little bit about the fact that Kolkata play Bangalore today in Abu Dhabi, but Harsha, a lot more about one individual out of the 22. You can't help it. We might have been talking about him anyway, but in the light of the announcement, in the light of game number 200 for one franchise, Virat Kohli will be the focus today.
And he said that's his franchise for life. If someone else had said, this is my franchise for life, someone would have tapped him on the shoulder from behind and said, if selected. But he's Virat Kohli, right? So he can say, my franchise for life. And it's good to see he's the only player in the history of this tournament, only Indian player, I think. Is there anybody else? Malinga till he retired. But yeah, who's only been with one franchise all through, which is a magnificent record. You would have liked to have had a couple of titles against his name, but you can't get everything in life. So, and 200 games, so one franchise, fantastic. I mean, as the tournament grows, we are now 13, 14 years old, it starts to get these traditions starting to come in. When you say great United players, great Chelsea players, great Real players, now you're saying great Bangalore players, and he's got every single record. You'd imagine with a batsman of his caliber playing as many games as he has, that he would hold those. But the one that I will always remember is that, what do they call it? Annus Mirabilis? Is that what they call it, Gautam? 2016, 973 runs. I don't know if it will ever be matched.
Fair enough. But Dooley, we had a little bit of a chat yesterday on this because the breaking news came in while we were on the show. Let me get your thoughts on it. Also, in the light of something you said on this very show, but in 2019. You still remember that, Dooley?
Yeah, I do. I was sent it actually by a very much a Cricbuzz fan, a gentleman who we all know very well. But look, it was just around the workload and the amount of strain that captaincy, particularly captaincy of India, takes on on Virat Kohli's shoulders, and to captain RCB, to captain India, to do that year in, year out, it is the most precious situation, I think, in world cricket. And he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's an emotional guy, and I think it was taking his toll, just on him as a person, maybe him as a player as well. And my point a couple of years ago was about, for RCB in particular, just let Virat Kohli be the best player in the world. He was at the time, he probably still is now, although some of the numbers are not showing that at the moment. I still think he is, one of the best players in the world. So I just love to see him finish out his RCB career, and that won't be for another few years yet, I don't think at all. He'll still play for 2, 3, 4 more years at least for RCB. I'd love to see him finish that out as the best player and just help them win a title. And just whoever comes in as captain, nurture them, help them along, have some advice, but just be a player and really enjoy his time on the ground, just as a player, just as a batsman. I think it'll bring out the best of him at this level. Harsha talked about that 900 odd run year. It was just crazy. It was crazy good. You'd love to see him have one or two of those and maybe lead RCB to a title as a batsman rather than as a captain. And I think that that could certainly come along for him.
Gautam, everyone says give every moment 100%. All great athletes do that. They give every moment 100%. But here's Virat, who's not only giving 100%, but physically is putting so much into every moment. Now he's got a child. He's probably sitting there and enjoying seeing his daughter and suddenly thinking, but what am I going to do tomorrow when Bangalore play Kolkata? What are my field placements going to be? Who are my overseas players going to be? And because he's so intense, there are very, say, MS Dhoni is completely opposite. MS Dhoni is very cool. I'm not saying one is better than the other. Just temperamentally, they're very different. Kane Williamson, temperamentally, very, very different from a Kohli. So you can see Joe Root is a bit of a warrior. So each person has this temperament, the temperament they bring onto the ground. And that's why I think we might have said that on a program in Cricbuzz after 100 he got in South Africa back in 2018, I think, saying this intensity is impossible to go on with. So actually, as I said yesterday, I thought he would give up Bangalore before he gave up India.
But Doull, let me just put you on the spot, because we've come up with a lot of reasons trying to analyze this. But do you think in Virat Kohli's mind, the number one reason would be the burden of these decisions of being a captain? 2, not having won a trophy for the franchise? Or 3, to let his batting flourish?
Combination of 1 and 3, I think. To me, letting his batting flourish, let his bat do the talking will be one of the keys for him. And I think maybe he's looking at it now and saying, my best option to win an IPL title is to score 700 runs, 650, 700 runs in a season, and just maybe let someone else take on the burden of the worry. And for me to just walk out and be free and be fresh and enjoy my captaincy. I think at times between Kohli and AB de Villiers, they have almost thought there is nobody else that can win us a game. So we're lumping all this pressure on ourselves to have to win games. And I actually don't think that is the best way, or that has been the best way for RCB. There have been, over the years, there have been so many good players in those sides, but I just don't think they've been allowed to flourish. I think the pressure that AB and Virat have put on themselves has meant that they feel, they're almost the only ones that can do it. If we don't do it, nobody will do it, sort of thing. So to me, I just think this will be, I think it's a great move. I really do. Look, if he doesn't win it this year, he's every chance of doing it next year or the year after, just as a batsman. And I think he'll still get the enjoyment out of it. He'll still get just as much enjoyment out of it. So in answer to those two, I think it's more 1 and 3 than it is 2.
Doull makes a really valid point, Gautam. Sorry, I keep coming the way. Doull makes a really valid point about these two saying, I will do it. And that is what drives champions. And that is what diminishes people who are less than champions, who say, oh, I've got to do it. And they get burdened by the need to do that. Some people just flower with the responsibility. Virat says, right, I'm going to win it. AB's, I'm going to go and finish it. But I think we drew the parallel last year of 2 giant oak trees, 2 giant banyan trees. But in their shade, are they giving shelter or are they preventing others from growing? And if you notice this year, the coming of Maxwell has actually helped them. This year, Maxwell has come in and scored runs for them, and that's actually helped them. Jamieson has come and scored runs at the end. Harshal Patel has taken wickets. So the reason Bangalore find themselves in a better situation is there are others who are doing stuff for them this year.
Yeah, well, we've just about come to the toss. I just eavesdropped on Danny Morrison doing the toss. Doull, I thought you were supposed to drop him off in Portugal and not let him come to the desert.
Spain, we tried to drop him off at
Malaga.
Okay.
But, Malaga.
Right. Yeah,
it was
Malaga in Spain, but they wouldn't let us off the plane. I tried to sort of push him down the stairs, but they wouldn't let us onto the tarmac. So
his reputation preceded him.
well, he's made it to the toss, and guess what? I mean, something Virat Kohli's never been very good at. It's a technique he never perfected, winning tosses. But he's changed that. He's won a toss. Now that he's got that burden off his shoulder, he's wearing a blue jersey. Of course, wonderful gesture for the COVID warriors from the franchise. But they have won the toss. They've decided to bat first. And Wanindu Hasaranga does find his way into the side, but we'll talk more about the side. Shikhar Bharat, I believe, also is in the 11. But we will come to the side in a moment. Let's quickly talk about winning toss, batting first, Harsha. We kind of sort of said that's a no-brainer to start with. Despite these numbers.
Despite the numbers, because we've seen on these grounds where the pitches don't change character that much early on, that if you're able to bat first and really set a good target, that it's not a bad way to play. It means you're backing your bowlers to be able to defend that target. These are large boundaries. This is not like playing at Chinnaswamy, where it doesn't matter what score you put up. I mean, I remember a game in Chinnaswamy where I think Andre Russell was playing against Bangalore, and the game was over, and Russell just said, yeah, that's what you think. And if he scored some 16 3 overs or something as ridiculous as that. Here you can defend scores. And I think the pitch report that Nick Knight and Matthew Hayden did said maybe slightly spongy bounce, little bit of grass, but these are the surfaces on which fast bowlers did well. I think Lockie Ferguson might have done well on this surface. Trent Bolt did well. I'm not taking Kiwi names because Dooley's here, but I mean, we wouldn't mind picking some of their reserves. They seem to grow fast bowlers and sheep all in the same paddock. Yeah.
But this is the thing, Harsha. Yeah. We looked last night as well. I think in the early part of the season, these guys have got. I talked to Toby last night at Dubai. He's got 26 games, so he's got very much the same amount of games between the IPL and the World Cup, the World T20, that he had for the whole of the IPL last year. So they've got to preserve these surfaces. He's only got 5 pitches across his block in Dubai, so they've got to keep grass on them early, just so that they hold together, so that they actually last right through the IPL and through the T20 World Cup. And so we will see a little bit of grass and a little bit of carry. As they get harder and maybe the grass just gets a little bit thinner, I think they'll get a little bit quicker. We just sort of stopped a little bit last night. So, yeah, it's an interesting one around bowling first and batting first in both situations. I know the stats might belie a little bit at times what the captains decide to do, because the situation of the early season pitch is slightly different to that of the late season pitch.
Yeah, well, we'll bring you up to date with both the teams. We've given you just a little hint as to the Bangalore team for the moment, but we will first remind you that now that you're on the show and now you're listening to our little discussions as to what might be the possible combinations, this is your chance to download the My 11 Circle app. If you're not already part of the family, make your 11, pick a captain, of course, and remember, this time around, there is a humongous amount of prize money to be won. Just make your team, compete with the experts, and your first prize is 5 crores. But that is quite a phenomenal amount to win. But it's right now the captain's headache to try and pick the 11s. Dooley, just first up, we were having a quick discussion, even though we haven't seen the full 11, with Hasaranga and Chahal playing. We sort of said which of the two will get to play. And I think Harsha yesterday on the show said, why can't you play both at some point? That some point has come on day one.
Yeah, and I like it. Look, I mean, they offer slightly different, although similar, slightly different bowling styles, I think. You know, we've seen that Chahal and Kuldeep, I think, over the last probably 4 or 5 years of IPL have been the slowest of the Indian spinners in particular, just given a little bit more air than any any other Indian spinner when Kuldeep has played, and Chahal is very much the same as that. They will love the size of these boundaries. They love these bigger grounds. The spinners, even though, and I talked to Moeen Ali prior to the game last night, we had an interview with Moeen, talking about, you know, the role that spin plays, even though the surface is slightly green and there's a little bit of grass on it, he said, you still have to try and rip the ball. You've still got to try and spin it as much as you can. You know, your line might change a little bit if guys are coming after you. Your line will change a touch. Use those bigger side boundaries. But both these guys, Hasaranga and Chahal, have variations, and they have very good variations. So I think it's a really good selection policy straight away to get them both in. Get Hasaranga into the tournament early. I think there's probably nothing worse as a new player than just sitting on the bench and waiting and wondering when that time will come and getting more and more nervous. And you throw him in, let's say 2 games time, if they've lost 2, he's under an enormous amount of pressure. Get him in straight away, see what he's got.
They're all watching today, Gautam. They're all watching in Colombo and Bambalapitiya and everywhere, all around. But Dooley's point about there being different bowlers. See, Chahal's loop is like that. Chahal goes like that. If you saw Hasaranga bowl, and we saw him closely during India-Sri Lanka, he's flatter, skiddier, he's got that straight ball that not everyone can pick. He's not as big a turner maybe, but he's a different kind of bowler. Plus, he'll give you batting at 7. Don't look at that 29 runs in 3 matches. But he'll give you a little bit more batting. Look at the economy rate died down. If you've got Hasaranga 7, Jamieson 8, you've basically got a spin bowling all-rounder and a fast bowling all-rounder. That's
Harshal's not the worst either, Harsha, is he? I mean, Harshal Patel is capable with the bat.
Yeah, he can bat.
Well,
So, he'd be coming in at 9.
We'll try and balance the discussion out because inevitably, after the Virat Kohli start, a lot of focus was going to be on the men in blue. Yes, it's the men in red playing in blue today, but let's not forget the men in purple. We'll talk about them in a moment. Sometimes over here, we tend to be a little too biased towards them, but we're trying to balance things out. Let's also give you our My 11 Circle smart picks. It's one thing to advise you. It's one thing to remind you about the 5 crore prize money. But who are the guys we think you should have in your team? These are the 3 names we've thrown out there: Glenn Maxwell, Nitish Rana, and Kyle Jamieson. Dooley, let me get you on Kyle Jamieson. I mean, we saw him emerge for New Zealand. Didn't necessarily flourish as much as the world might have expected, but he's sort of done the job in franchise cricket.
Yeah, he has. I still think at the international level, he's still got a little way to go with his T20 cricket. The other format, or Test in particular, you're just a no-brainer. But 9 wickets in 7 matches. For me, he's working his way through a T20 situation. He's still figuring out how it is best to bowl in T20 cricket. I know later through the tournament we'll start to talk more about what World Cup permutations, but he wouldn't be in my starting New Zealand World Cup team for a T20 game at the moment, but he's learning and he will get better, and this tournament will see him get better as far as lines length is concerned, death bowling is concerned, all those things that will just assist him along the way. But with the pitches offering a little bit of pace, a little bit of bounce, he can be very, very awkward if he gets it right up front.
Interesting call.
And Harsha,
no Southie in. Yeah.
Yes.
No Jamieson in Dooley's team. Yeah, Nitish Rana.
I believe it or not, the first Kolkata name we're talking about on the show here as inevitably that we focus, but they are desperate for points. And for someone like Nitish Rana to step up at the top there will be vital for them to try and qualify somehow.
We've got the music on our program too. Has Dooley just done a joy? Anyway, look with Nitish Rana, even when we saw him play for Mumbai, he struck you as someone who could do a job. I'm not sure he's your lead batsman, but he looked completely out of colour towards the tail end of last year, even at times this year. So if he is going up alongside Shubman Gill to open the batting, then his job is to go straight away. He's got the shots, but I don't think he's become the player that we thought he might become at one point. So, yeah, I mean, if they get something out of him, that's great. But they want more out of Shubman Gill. They want more out of Morgan, Karthik, Russell, all these people. But he being left-handed in the top order makes a huge difference in that side.
And of course, the one player, once again, Jamieson, we were comparing him for the national side versus the franchise side. Glenn Maxwell, he's again a phenomenon when it comes to his career for Bangalore and what he's done for Australia.
Yeah, look, Glenn Maxwell I think he really enjoyed his time in the first half of the IPL back in April. To me, he fits into this side a lot better. It was a smart selection. No, they paid a fortune for him, but I think this is the first time that I've seen Glenn Maxwell in a side where he feels like he's not having to be the big show. He can be the guy that sort of gets the little spatula out and puts the icing on the cake rather than having to build the cake, or is worried about having to do that. So to me, that fits his personality a lot better because there's guys around him that can do the job, and on the odd occasion he will be the big, he'll be the big fish because he's good enough to do that. But I just think this team fits him a little bit better, and he feels very comfortable in it. We know that he said that. His role is clearly defined, and he fits into this side really well. You throw his bowling and his fielding in. If he feels like he is absolutely part of a winning franchise, a winning team, he'll give you everything, and he will win games for you. So I think he'll enjoy the second half as well.
I'm going to go back, Gautam, to what Dooley said right at the start about some players saying, I'm going to win the game for you. And how Kohli and AB wouldn't mind being in that situation. I don't know Maxwell personally. I've had a 1-hour conversation with him on Cricbuzz, but I don't know him personally. I get the feeling he gets weighed under if he's in that situation. And if he's just told, listen, we are a 10-man side. Maxwell, you're the free element in here. Go and do what you want. And in this case, if he's batting at 4, he's got Kohli ahead of him, AB behind him. He's free. And I think that is making the difference. He's a stunning fielder. And I think his bowling is underestimated. Don't be surprised if he comes in and bowls those round the wicket off breaks at least a couple of overs.
Yeah, I think it's something we talked about at the start of the season, where when he was the number 1 player or even the number 2 player in a franchise, the weight of that was probably too overwhelming for him. Whereas if he's number 3, 4 or 5 and yet getting to be, say, at number 4 when it comes to being in the batting order, suits him perfectly. Let's remind you of the starting 11s. We've got a debutant in each side. We'll start with Bangalore, and the debutant there we mentioned already right at the top. Possibly that will be the batting order. Glenn Maxwell, we talked about him at number 4. Wanindo Hasaranga comes in to 2 leg spinning options. Looks to have a good balance, Harsha.
I have a feeling that this is AB de Villiers' back speaking. If AB de Villiers is back, is starting to play up a little bit, they'll need another wicketkeeper. Now, KS Bharat has been for a long time, until Rishabh Pant came back, the stand-in test match keeper to Ridhiman Saha. When we were uncertain about whether Rishabh Pant would make it as a test match keeper, KS Bharat was seen as the stand-in test match keeper. So I don't know how much of a T20 batsman he will be at this level. He's obviously done really well for Andhra in domestic cricket over the years. But I think he's in here as a floater, much the same way that sometimes Hyderabad are forced to play Shrivats Goswami, towards the end of a season. So I won't be surprised if Harshal Patel goes in at 3 as a pinch hitter, which is what he does in domestic cricket. Just goes boom, boom, boom at the start. But KS Bharat is a proper batsman, apart from being a proper keeper. And Sachin Baby, that means they finally said, look, Rajat Patidar, Shahbaz Ahmed, we've given them a go. If you remember, even yesterday, we talked about 3 and 6 as being the 2 danger areas for Bangalore. And I think they've experimented again with those 2 areas at 3 and 6. And they're hoping, Sachin Baby does so well for Kerala. It'll be interesting to see if he can do that. There he bats at 4. I think just after Samson, he bats at 4. It'll be interesting to see what he does here.
Yeah, Dooley, despite everything that we've said about their successes this season, number 3 has been that one slot where they were just trying to firm things up. And maybe, it could be a stopgap measure, but yet, we saw Rajat Patidar. He was the one who came in early on. They played Shahbaz Ahmed just for one game. Then Patidar came back. Washington Sundar is not available right now. So maybe that is one slot they'd like to tick that box, Dooley.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for me. I still think that as the surfaces get better, you can change your side. If they're a little bit worried about losing wickets up front, or the pitch being a little bit bowler friendly early on, I can understand the thinking around it. But at the end of the day, when you've got Kohli, Maxwell, AB de Villiers, in my opinion, as on a good pitch, they should be batting 3, 4, 5. And if they're hiding away from that, and I'm not saying this is the player's choice, it might be a team decision. We want some power. We want a pinch hitter at 3. We want to protect those guys so that they're, let's say we are only 1 down after 6, 7 overs, then the order does change and it becomes Kohli, Maxwell, de Villiers at 3, 4, 5, or 4, 5, 6. If we are none down or 1 down, that order can change. It can be a little bit fluid, which is a good thing. But to me, you still want your best players playing the most deliveries. So if they're worried about it, if they're worried about the surfaces moving around a little bit, I don't mind the option, but I'd still rather see them bat 3, 4, 5, the big 3.
Yeah, and I know winning for Bangalore is as important as winning for India, for Kohli at the moment when you are in the heat of this situation. But if he's opening here, there's a different flow to batting at different numbers. T20 cricket has its own ebbs and flows. It's a different role that you play as an opener, a different role that you play at 3. If he's going to play 3 for India, it might have been a good idea. I know this is Bangalore. If he was playing 3 here as well, if he's opening here, then I don't know whether in his mind he wants to go and open at the T20 World Cup.
He'll open here, you think?
Well, he did last time, so I'm just assuming that he will.
You think they'll keep that the same? Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, if that's the case, then they need whether they have a pinch hitter at 3 and then save the Maxwell de Villiers thing, then that makes sense to me. Is opening his best position as a captain at the moment? It possibly is. He just wants to take the role on himself. If it does do a little bit, though, I wonder whether they might change that around a touch and see whether a pinch hitter or something at the top might be a better option.
Well, one person who won't open, but it gives the assurance to Kohli when he strides out, is Abraham Benjamin de Villiers. What a player he's been over the years for South Africa, for Bangalore, all around the world, an entertainer. And when he sees purple in the opposition, have a look at a look at these numbers. I mean, I think you see phenomenal strike rates anyway for him, but sometimes it gets a little more startling than others.
That's crazy. Those are crazy numbers, aren't they, when you look at them? I mean, and these are, tend to be finishing games off or resurrecting situations when they're in trouble, and then really going sort of hard at the back end of the innings, the 76 not out, the 73 not out there, proving that. Look, he is, I mean, I hope I'm not wrong in saying this, but of all the players who have retired from international cricket and then continue to play IPL cricket, he's one of the few that is a real success story that continues to do the job and get the job done, because there's been so many that have retired from international cricket and have been unable to continue the height of what they showed prior to their retirement. And he is one that just continues to deliver. And, is it his work ethic? Is it, what are the reasons behind that? I can't answer all those questions, but he certainly keeps doing it.
Is there a way, Harsha? I mean, this is all speculation. We are seeing these numbers. I'm sure in that Kolkata dressing room, they will have seen a few of these numbers, or maybe they'll hide it from them. Can you have a plan to someone like AB de Villiers?
Look, there are theories. Matchups throw up theories, and matchups will show you maybe left armer at the start of the innings, or maybe a leg spinner at the start of the innings. And so those matchups will work for a little while. But when you're talking to a player like AB, look, AB is seeing the matchups as well. I don't know if he cares to see them, but someone will have shown them to him. And he's such a genius, he'll find his way around it anyway. I mean, look, spin 120. You don't know what kind of surfaces those games were played on, but he'll find a way. He'll find a way to get over that. But yeah, left arm spin and leg spin early on has tended to keep him quiet a little bit and get him to play shots. So maybe that's one way of doing that. Do Kolkata have that kind of bowler in their midst? Is Sunil Narine the bowler to go with against AB? Maybe. Oh, I didn't realize. AB, maybe. Okay.
Maybe. AB, maybe, baby. Yeah, we've got 3 for you, Harsha. But in the opposition, the men in purple, this is how they stack up in terms of their 11s. We had Bharat as the debutant for Bangalore. We've got one in Venkatesh Iyer for Kolkata as well, slotted again at the top of the order between Gill and Rana. It does look a bit light up there. I mean, you've got a solid Owen Morgan coming. You've got all those 3 overseas players who stack in as all-rounders, or at least Andre Russell and Sunil Narine do. Simon Doull, first glance, classy Indian players, yes, but does it appear a little light?
Yeah, I wonder about. I know Venkatesh Iyer's had a decent T20 side for Madhya Pradesh tournaments. He's a powerful striker. He'll offer something with the ball as well, being a genuine all-rounder. I still like Tripathi at the top. I don't quite know, whether they fit him in at the top or how they get him there. It just looks like it's a sort of we're hopeful top 4. Shubman Gill needs to be better than he was at the start of the IPL. He needs to be more aggressive. Maybe the reason for having Venkatesh Iyer there is that he is going to play that real aggressive role at the top of the order. Again, I'm okay with that, but your best players, Morgan's just got to bat 4. Owen Morgan has got to take the mantle on. He's got to bat 4 for mine. So having that top 4 and then Morgan, Karthik and Russell, I don't mind Karthik and Russell to finish off if that's what they want to do. I just want to see Owen Morgan bat 4 and own that position. I think you've got all that Indian talent at 1, 2, 3, 4. To me, that's just not quite where I'd like to see it. I'd rather see Morgan slot in there, and whichever one it is, I think I like Nitish Rana at 3. Whichever one it is that goes to 5, I don't mind.
Yeah, just let's put that up again, Gautam. Let's put that Kolkata side again. I remember talking to Brendan McCullum towards the tail end of last season when Kolkata were losing games, and he was talking about them not being bold enough, not being brave enough, and he said, "Watch out for this fellow Venkatesh Iyer." This was just after a post-match presentation, and he was waiting to be an interview for the official website. And he said, "Watch out for this Venkatesh Iyer. There's something about him." So we'll discover now if there is indeed something about him. But what about the bowling here? Prasidh Krishna, Lockie Ferguson, Sunil Narayan, they have to lock in, and Chakravarti have to lock in 4 overs. Now, is Andre Russell a shoe-in as a 4 overs bowler? In which case you can gamble a little bit with Venkatesh Iyer, or is Venkatesh Iyer, Andre Russell between them the 4th bowler? So maybe a little thin, and also I'm not sure, as Dooley said, about the definitions of roles. Is Sunil Narayan going to bat at 8, for example? Is he going to be a freeloader, at the top? Where is Venkatesh Iyer going to bat? I mean, Brendan McCullum's a fantastic thinker of the short form game, so he'll probably have worked out these roles. But I could not agree more about Owen Morgan batting at 4. He has to bat at 4 and take the lead from there and say, "Look, I'm one of the great white ball captains. I'm one of the more dominating players in white ball cricket, but I'm a batsman. I'm not a Russell. Russell at 6, I can understand. Or if you've got Bairstow, Roy, Butler, Livingston, Malan, all these guys, he said, okay, I'll play a different role. But here he's got to bat 4.
But let me throw this to both
you talk about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, GB. Talk about Narayan. To me, we're both in the Caribbean, GB, and I think
that was my question.
His days are numbered. Sorry, mate. Sorry. I think his days are numbered at the top of the order. I just think they know exactly how to bowl them and where to go. And we saw that one game. I can't remember which one it was, Gautam, where he came in at number 7 or 8 and got 28 or 26 off 7 or 8 balls, and that's going to win you more games. If he does that 2 to 3 times a season, that's going to win you more games than the success he might potentially have at the top, which I think are few and far between now, as far as Sunil Narayan goes. So to me, I'd rather see him now batting at that 7, 8, 9 position, wherever he fits in down there.
I know I heard Dooley saying that a lot in the Caribbean. Personally, I'm one of those who said his only use really as a batsman is even if he gets you 15 of 8 balls, he's done some kind of a job to throw the bowlers off up front. But Dooley has a point about people having figured him out and knowing the right bowler to bowl to him. Harsha, where do you stand in that? You're captain of this side. Where do you bat Sunil Narayan?
I will only bat him up the order if I don't expect too much from him. And then I'm just sending him out as a suicide bomber. And just say, go do what you want. But what he does well when he's at that number, he doesn't use up balls. He doesn't give you 7 of 12, for example. But I mean, people know he doesn't like the ball by his nose. I mean, the moment he comes in, he's like a chocolate shop opened in town. Everyone's there around. Everyone's buzzing the ball by his nose. So maybe, it's interesting. You sometimes get into a situation where you're 150 for 6 with 2 overs left, and you desperately want to get to 175. Do you have that guy coming in at that point? So maybe he could redefine himself and play in that role, saying, look, if I've got 12, 15 balls left, can I give my side 20 runs from there?
I wonder if the presence of Silas Narayan has any presence in any role in his life to try and sort of push him down the order. Fatherhood has made him into a different kind of person, Dooley, as we've seen in the Caribbean. But one person who hasn't changed personality-wise, if you ask him to throw us a good question, is Joy Bhattacharya. And yesterday, he's set the tone for the rest of the season. He had a cracker of a question, but let's see if he can keep it up for today. In this tournament's history, if it is Zahir Khan for MS Dhoni and Amit Mishra for Rohit Sharma, who is it for Virat Kohli? Interestingly phrased question, which you'd probably have to read carefully, whether you're Rohit, Tanmay, or any of the thousands who are sending in answers. I haven't got a clue at the moment. Dooley is nodding his head. He seems to...
It's a bowler.
I think this is significantly easier than that monster he threw up yesterday. I mean, the question he threw up yesterday, No, the one he threw up yesterday was just Joy flexing his muscles and saying, guys, you think you can answer it? Here it is. It was an unanswerable question almost. This one, I think a lot of people would have started sending in responses.
But as I said, yesterday there was a big hint in the fact that there was a relevance. It was the anniversary of Yuvraj's 6 sixes, and therefore you could make a connection. So just remember all those things if you...
Who's Parkin? But I mean, who knows Parkin, man? Some Nottinghamshire second 11 player. Only a trivia doctorate like Joy will know some Parkin somewhere.
Well, that's the way it goes. But remember, yesterday we were thinking we were going to get it horribly wrong, Dooley. 44 for 4 at the end of the 10-hour mark. Our predictions were between 150 and 170, and we had thrown it out the window. Suddenly, it came screaming back through the window, thanks to one man in yellow. But today, we've got 20 overs to think about it. End of 20 over score. Simon Doull, you can go first. Bangalore batting first.
Simon, hang on. Simon, just a minute. What happens when you and I go is that Gautam gets a fence to sit on.
Fine. Okay, as promised, I will go first, and I will go with 177.
Okay.
Ooh.
Maybe that's
Okay,
too much on the surface, but yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. Right, I'm going to go lower than that. I'm going to go with 161.
Okay, I was going to go sort of 165, 166. So I think I can still go there, though. If I want to really... I think I'll go 174 or something, but no, I'm going 168.
And that's not offense, Harsha?
That's insightful. That's
Thank
insightful.
All right, we'll give it to you.
It depends on what you're wearing. If you're wearing as many colors as you are, that's a fence to distract people. If you're monochrome, then that's okay.
Don't take offence at what Gautam is wearing. Okay, that's not.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure you saw everything that was to be seen in the Caribbean.
Well, there you go. We've just got moments before the game starts. We've had quite a few discussions. Virat Kohli, of course, being the central focus of it. But one thing's for sure. Anything you want from the game of cricket, if you like a little bit extra, Cricbuzz Plus is the place to go. And you can have so much exclusive content. Only a cricket fan, and everyone who's out there is one, would appreciate that. So get in there, subscribe to it, and of course, you stick on to Cricbuzz Plus, because we are going to be back with plenty more discussions right here. 10th over is Cricbuzz Combox, and then we'll be back in the mid-innings. Thank you, Harsha. Thank you, Dooley. We shall see you again on Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partner, My 11 Circle.